Today in crypto, there are some wild cards out there in crypto land that can crash the price of Bitcoin. Many of these can happen at any time with little to no warning. What are they? How bad could they be? And should you be concerned? The Crypto Lark, this is where you subscribe for all of the hottest and all of the latest happening out here in the wild, wild land of crypto. Also, if you want to trade Bitcoin and cryptocurrency, but you don't know how to get started, then check out my course, Crypto Trading Explained. It will teach you all of the essential indicators and the key patterns and the tools that you need to know, as well as things like risk management strategies and setting a great stop loss, along with top tips for success. There is a link down below where you can learn more. Okay, so let me preface this conversation by saying that these are all possible situations. Some of them are more likely than others to happen, but regardless, I remain a long-term bull on Bitcoin. The following situations, they are events that could either cause short-term price dumps or even potentially lead to longer-term price downtrends. None of them will end Bitcoin or any of that kind of stuff, but if they did happen, they could certainly shake confidence in the markets and, yes, lead to very large price crashes. Great for long-term sat stackers without a doubt, but not good for the health of the markets in the short term. So the first wild card is Satoshi Nakamoto. That dude. You see, something really interesting happened the other day, which was actually kind of the inspiration for this video. Bitcoin moved from an address that had not been touched in 11 years. So just take a look at this chart here to understand how the market actually decided to react to the news that a possible Satoshi address had been activated. The price dumped within minutes after this news. Look, no one knows for certain whether or not this was Satoshi. By all indications, it was likely not Satoshi for a variety of factors, but the immediate market panic of the possibility of Satoshi re-emerging is something to definitely take note of. Satoshi has 1 million Bitcoin, and we have no idea how this Bitcoin might be used if Satoshi resurfaces. Our best hope is that Satoshi is dead and we can consider these coins to actually just be burnt and the keys gone forever. But what if he isn't? Well, we all hope that Satoshi is going to be some kind of a saint and do only nice things with his crypto. We can hope. Look, maybe the NSA, they got him and he's sitting in prison and he's going to get out someday. The fact that he disappeared only days after talking about WikiLeaks and WikiLeaks kicking the hornet's nest, so to speak, it's very suspicious, without a doubt. But maybe Satoshi is not the man that we imagine him to be. Maybe Satoshi is in prison for doing really bad things, totally unrelated to Bitcoin. Maybe Satoshi's stuck on a deserted island out in the Pacific somewhere, and when he comes back, he's going to dump Bitcoin hard and buy a fleet of yachts or something like that. We don't know. The uncertainty surrounding Satoshi, I think it's going to diminish with time as we can feel more assured that Satoshi is dead, although he could have maybe, hired a bonded courier to drop off the Bitcoin private keys somewhere in 100 years' time or something like that. But anyway, the market has spoken. Satoshi re-emerging, it could cause a lot of market uncertainty. So be aware. The next wild card is the cryptocurrency scams. There have been multiple massive scams in crypto that have pulled in well over $1 billion apiece within recent years. The two most recent scams have been the Plus token scam, which raked in nearly 200,000 Bitcoin, of which 25,000 may still be in the hands of the scammers and available to be dumped on the market at a moment's notice. And more recently, Woe token, which took in nearly 50,000 Bitcoin, which are either now in the hands of Chinese police or potentially still with some of the scammers from that syndicate. Historically, the sell-offs from these scams have been very random and have had short-term devastating market effects, driving the price down by like 20% within a matter of minutes. As long as human greed exists, people will continue to fall for these scams, and the scammers will continue to pile up insane amounts of Bitcoin, which they then dump on the markets later when they exit scam, because that's what scams do. They exit scam. And that brings me to the Mt. Gox Bitcoin. The infamous Mt. Gox Bitcoin hack is still to this day an unresolved issue. You see, while the majority of the Bitcoin was stolen, and much of it was then laundered and liquidated, but there remains a few key lots of Bitcoin that could really spell some short-term trouble for the market. So the Mt. Gox trustee is currently presiding over 142,000 Bitcoin and Bitcoin Cash, both of which might be returned to creditors, potentially even in 2020, according to a new rehabilitation proposal. It might take years. Hard to say. Nothing's been decided definitively yet. The trustee previously sold off 58,000 Bitcoin, which has coincided with big market drops in the past. Now, whether or not the creditors are given their Bitcoin this year or not, it remains to be seen. But a lot of the Mt. Gox users, if they get that Bitcoin back, they would be in massive, massive profits. The temptation to sell that Bitcoin on the market, to cash out, that would be huge. The next wild card is Tether. I have discussed this so many times on the channel before, but it's been a while. Maybe I should make a new Tether video, but Tether is the top stablecoin in crypto, and it is a top 5 market cap cryptocurrency right now, and this is not a good thing. No. Tether has a long and scandalous history of auditing delays and banking dramas and legal dramas and money laundering allegations and a whole host of market manipulation allegations, and of course not being backed one for one as they're supposed to be, and that was provable for a time and has probably usually been the case, and really just general shady dealings. In fact, it took the Paradise Papers leak to even find out who was behind Tether, which happened to be the same people behind Bitfinex who've been accused multiple times of market manipulation and all the other kind of stuff. The rabbit hole of intrigue and deception, it goes super deep. And Tether has proven to be a survivor, but it also remains a wild card threat due to the shady nature of it and the possibility that they're not actually backed up as they claim, and that any variety of lawsuits against Tether could bring the whole house of cards crumbling down, and maybe they're just printing money out of thin air. Anyway, if you do use stablecoins, then use something transparent and regulated. My go-to is USDC. I try and stay away from Tether at all costs, but look, an implosion of Tether, if it were to happen, it would crush the markets big time, because the majority of trading volume for Bitcoin right now comes from Tether. Sure, competitors like USDC, they would quickly be able to move in and take Tether's place, but the shock of such an event, not good. Not good short term by any means. The next wild card is a global depression. You see, the Mexican beer crisis and the resulting economic effects, they still have a real potential to drag the world into a deep and bitter depression. There is no guarantee that Bitcoin will do well during this time. Yes, of course, all the rich investors, they're always going to be able to play the markets in any situation. So there will still be demand without a doubt. It's not going to crush the Bitcoin markets, just potentially drive them down. Bitcoin, in a time of crisis, it tends to track closely with the equity markets. In a depression type event, that would probably crush the equity markets and likely take Bitcoin down with it. Now, this massive macro factor, it should not be ignored. I know we all believe that Bitcoin will do well in a situation of high inflation and negative rates and the banking system's all messed up and all that stuff. We know that. But will the price of Bitcoin soar in a situation where millions of small businesses are shutting, where millions and millions and millions of people are unemployed? You have food banks overflowing with mile-long lines of people desperate to put food on the table? It's a more difficult situation. I feel much less certain of Bitcoin mooning in that particular scenario. Hopefully, we can avoid the worst economic outcomes from the crisis. I think the banks have been printing enough money to try and mitigate these effects, but there is a fear that the markets are just stuck in a stage of disbelief and that things could get much, much worse. And finally, our last wild card, draconian regulations. You see, China made headlines and really sent the markets crashing back in 2017 when it announced that it was cracking down on Bitcoin, although the price really did recover very quickly, and the Chinese black market for crypto, it has actually grown in size. The Chinese market is probably bigger than it ever has been today. In fact, remember the Plus token and Mo token scams? Those are both Chinese scams. All the victims were predominantly in China, and all the Bitcoin was obtained on the black market in China. So if China can't stop Bitcoin, then come on, what other government's really going to stand a chance of stopping its citizens from getting Bitcoin, right? Personally, I believe that a ban in any major economy right now is an incredibly unlikely event. Regulations for Bitcoin, they're moving towards a more open and inclusive nature, regulatory oversight and all that stuff, but generally they're okay with it. But governments do certainly have the power to put a lot of pain on the industry. Now this could create short-term market events, but I think Bitcoin really now is mature enough that this is no longer a major concern, but it is of course still a theoretical possibility that the US wakes up tomorrow and the president goes, this Bitcoin thing, we gotta take care of it. But hopefully not. Anyway, those are just my 2 Satoshis. What do you think? Are any of the ideas that I discussed here today something that worry you? Is there something else that I missed that should have been on this list? Let me know about it down below in the comment section. Your daily reminder, you're freaking awesome. Keep doing you. You're an absolute class act. So thank you so much for tuning in to watch today's video. Long live the blockchain, and peace out till next time.